There is a very specific type of silence that fills a house when you aren't spending money. It's the silence of a woman who has decided that her husband isn't a partner, but a high-interest ATM. You know the feeling. You've been working 12-hour shifts, you're tired, and you come home to a cold shoulder and a what's-for-dinner attitude. But then, you buy her that new designer bag or you surprise her with that expensive vacation, and suddenly the love of your life reappears. Suddenly, you're the best husband in the world. Suddenly, she's affectionate. You aren't just seeing gratitude, you are witnessing transactional identity liquidation. You're the victim of the provisioner's tax. You were a man who believed love was about character, but you've been forced into a reality where your only value is the size of your bank account. You're witnessing a psychological extraction where her compliments aren't about you, they are about the stuff you provide. She didn't just forget to be nice, she has trained you to believe that her kindness is a luxury you have to purchase every single month. You're the victim of behavioral grooming. While you're working to give her a forever, she's treating your loyalty like a subscription service that expires the moment the funds run low. Behavioral observations show that when a woman only validates a man during a transaction, she doesn't love the man, she loves the access he provides. Today, we are breaking down why your house feels like a marketplace and why your heart has become a commodity. If you don't watch this until the final second, you're choosing to stay a customer in your own marriage instead of becoming the king of your own life. The most brutal realization you will ever face is that the "I love you" she says after you buy her a gift isn't a compliment to your soul, it's a receipt for the transaction you just completed. Men, this channel is more than content. It's a brotherhood that exists for those who refuse to be controlled, distracted, or broken. My ex told me men today are too weak, too distracted, and too controlled to ever unite. I didn't argue. I decided to prove her wrong. Every man who subscribes is proof that discipline, self-respect, and strength still exist. If you stand for truth, self-control, and knowing your value as a real man, if you're here to sharpen your mindset and live with standards, subscribe and stay. Like this video and make your presence known in the comments. Let's see who's serious and is ready to prove doubters wrong, because after this video, you'll be reborn as a new man who has discovered himself and is ready to take back his manhood. Make sure to subscribe and stay ahead because we are just getting started. We have to look at the psychology of the reward system. You see, brothers, a man's brain is built to seek validation from the woman he protects. When she only gives you that validation in exchange for a gift, she is performing intermittent reinforcement. It's the same way people get addicted to slot machines. You spend, you spend, you spend, and for a few seconds the bells ring and she smiles. Then the machine goes cold again. Behavioral patterns show that the old you was operating on a false contract. You thought provision was a pillar of a relationship, but she turned it into the entry fee. You are the victim of the utility trap. You think you're just being a good husband, but you're actually suffering from emotional starvation. Your brain is starving for a compliment that isn't attached to a price tag. This leads us to the performance loop. You start working more hours just to afford the next smile. You start neglecting your own health just to fund her happiness. You are being neurologically conditioned to believe that your worth as a human being is tied to your ability to pay. You're the victim of domestic extortion. The most dangerous part is the erasure of the soul. When she only compliments the gift giver, she is essentially telling you that the man inside doesn't matter. Your kindness, your integrity, your sacrifices, none of that is visible to her unless it's wrapped in a box. Behavioral observations suggest that this is a form of dehumanization. You are being reduced to a tool. You are being psychologically liquidated by a woman who views your hard-earned money as her birthright and her affection as a negotiable asset. Let's talk about a man named Marcus. Marcus was a successful contractor, a man who built houses for families but couldn't keep the roof on his own peace of mind. He married a woman named Vanessa. In the beginning, Vanessa was sweet, but as the years went on, Marcus noticed a pattern. If he came home empty-handed, Vanessa was tired or had a headache. But if he came home with jewelry or told her he'd paid off her credit card, she was the perfect wife. Marcus was the loser in this story because he tried to buy the peace. When Marcus felt Vanessa drifting away, he didn't set boundaries. He didn't ask for respect. Instead, he bought her a luxury SUV. For 3 weeks, things were great. Marcus felt like a king again. But then the new car smell wore off and Vanessa went back to being cold, distant, and critical. Marcus spent the next 5 years in a debt-fueled chase. He took out a second mortgage to pay for her influencer lifestyle just to hear her say, "I love you," once a week. He was the victim of the sunk cost of affection. By the time Marcus went bankrupt, Vanessa wasn't there to support him. She told him he was lazy and didn't provide enough, and she left him for a man who could still afford the subscription. Marcus failed because he didn't realize that a woman who only loves your wallet will never be there to hold your hand when it's empty. He stayed in the ruins of the provider role until he was physically and financially destroyed. He was the victim of the ATM curse. You have to recognize the revisionism of the consumer. When a woman treats you this way, she has to make you the bad guy whenever you say no. You are the victim of moral blackmail. If you don't buy the gift, she says you don't care about her or you're stingy. She takes your years of hard work and deletes them the moment you stop the flow of cash. Behavioral observations show that she is trying to kill your moral standing so you feel obligated to keep paying. You are being psychologically erased by a person who is using your own guilt as a weapon against your bank account. The loser's loop is the man who thinks he can earn his way back to being loved for who he is. You think if you just reach the next tax bracket, she will finally respect you. But you are the victim of the hedonic treadmill. The more you give, the more she expects, and the less she values the effort it took to get it. Behavioral patterns suggest that the old you was simply too generous for the game you were playing. You are being socially conditioned to feel like a failure if you aren't a bottomless pit of resources. You have to realize that the old you was a version of yourself that was designed to be used. You are being drained of your self-worth so that you can finally see the world with iron eyes. If you are still checking your bank balance before you check your own happiness, you are living in a prison of your own making. You need to understand the concept of the supply shock. The man who is kind, giving, and soft had to be destroyed so that the man who is boundaried, strategic, and valued could be born. You're the victim of the validation debt. You're mourning a version of yourself that thought love was a meritocracy where the biggest check won the most heart. You're witnessing a psychological transformation. She didn't stop loving you. She stopped acting because she realized the actor's fee was guaranteed regardless of her performance. You're the victim of the charity trap. You paid the ultimate price to learn that respect is the only currency that doesn't depreciate. Today, we are finishing the blueprint of the sovereign provider. We are looking at the final psychological shifts, the strategic withdrawal, the affection audit, and the mastery of the value-based frame. I'm going to show you why the man you are becoming is someone who doesn't need to buy a smile to feel like a man. If you don't watch this until the final second, you're choosing to stay a victim of her greed instead of the master of your own destiny. The most powerful moment in a man's life is the second he stops paying for the privilege of being disrespected and realizes that a woman who only loves what he has is the greatest obstacle to him becoming who he is. I know men with standards are here. If you value discipline, respect, and strength, subscribe, like, and comment. We have to talk about the sovereignty of the withdrawn supply. You see, brothers, when you stop the financial validation, the truth comes out in less than 48 hours. This is a behavioral stress test. You no longer feel the need to fix her mood with a shopping trip. You no longer feel the need to apologize with a credit card. This is a cognitive liberation. Behavioral observations suggest that men who stop being the ATM suddenly find the energy to become the architect. You are being neurologically upgraded. The moment you realized that her affection was a product you were buying, you realize you can just stop the subscription. You are the victim of the transactional ghost until the day you decide to walk out of the store. This leads us to the science of the emotional border. Most men try to talk about the problem before they have cut the supply. This is a behavioral error. You're the victim of the negotiation trap. You cannot negotiate desire or respect. Behavioral patterns show that the only way to heal the man she used is to focus 100% on your personal sovereignty. You are being psychologically reforged. By choosing to be frugal with your resources and generous with your self-development, you are giving your nervous system the space to build a frame that is bulletproof. I want to tell you about a man named Julian. Julian was a high-level executive who spent 10 years funding his wife Alina's every whim. He bought the house, the cars, the jewelry, and the plastic surgeries. He was the happy, paying Julian. But Julian noticed that the more he gave, the less Alina even looked at him. She was too busy for intimacy, but always available for a trip to the mall. Julian was the winner in this story because he chose the radical rebirth. One day, Julian didn't buy the anniversary diamond. Instead, he told Elena that he was refocusing his capital into a new venture, and they would be living on a strict budget for a year. The mask didn't just slip, it fell off. Alina didn't say, "I support you, honey." She said, "I didn't sign up for this." She became vitriolic. She showed Julian exactly who she was when the money stopped. Julian won because he used that supply shock to see her true character. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He simply realized that the woman he loved was actually just a professional consumer of his life force. Julian moved his assets, filed for divorce, and spent the next 3 years building a private equity firm that eclipsed his old wealth. But this time, he lived in a modest penthouse, drove a classic truck, and focused on his mission. He won because he realized that his value wasn't in his wallet, but in his will. Within 2 years, Julian was dating a woman who didn't even know what he did for a living. She just liked the way he led her. He won because he didn't try to fix Alina. He realized she was a broken system and he simply uninstalled her. He won because he understood that the man who was used was actually just a draft version that had to be deleted so the final version could be coded. You have to recognize the biological recovery of the sovereign man. This is a biological fact. When a man stops being a utility and starts being a primary, his body literally changes. You are the victim of resource stagnation as long as you are trying to buy her love. But the moment you commit to your own greatness, your focus returns, your drive returns. You are being biologically optimized. Her greed wasn't a tragedy. It was the diagnostic tool required to show you that you were building on the wrong foundation. The winner's protocol is about the resource perimeter. You have to look at the reflection and realize that you are the primary asset. No one gets to sit at your table who didn't help you build the chairs. You are the sovereign man. You recognize that being single and successful is better than being married and used. You are being hardened for the throne. Healing is the realization that she didn't take your money. She purchased her own exit from your life. You are being reforged. You now know that love is a partnership of two souls, not a transaction between a buyer and a seller. You are the master of your own psychology. You don't need compliments that you have to pay for. You need results that you can respect. You are the sovereign man. You are the master of your own destiny. You don't look back at the store of your old life. You look forward at the stronghold of your new world. So here is the smart question for the brotherhood today. If you stopped spending money on her today, what would be left of your relationship by tomorrow morning? And if the answer is nothing, then why are you still paying for a nothing that is costing you your everything? I want to hear from the men who stopped the flow and found the truth. How did it feel the day you realized that your value had nothing to do with your bank account and everything to do with your character? For the brothers who are still buying the peace, be honest. What are you actually afraid of if you stop the payments? Is it the loneliness of being alone or the fear of realizing she never loved you at all? Drop your story in the comments. Your words might be the system restart the brother next to you needs to finally close his wallet and open his eyes. This channel is for men who are done blaming themselves for other people's choices. If that's you, don't leave as a spectator. Subscribe and stay ahead because we are just getting started. Support the message, speak in the comments, and stand with the men who choose clarity over confusion. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay cold, stay in your power.